As I sit here in my kitchen and record this, we have already, we being Aaron and I, have recorded our episode. And in my opinion, it was one of the worst episodes we've ever done. Because how do you cover a over 4 decade career of such a polarizing individual like Hulk Hogan, right? Where do you start? Where do you end? I mean, so many large moments, but also so many tiny, nuanced moments that, made such a big deal, right? How do you do that justice? Well, you can't. And I feel like a week removed from his passing, we weren't going to break any new ground or cover anything that had not been said. We do cover the good and the bad. I didn't know how to phrase the way I was feeling, right? Because it is, like many people have said, a complicated situation. And a lot of this show, I wouldn't say has been built on, but one of our most popular segments has been the Hulk Hogan lie of the week over the years. Hogan, notorious for his lying and tall tales. And I've said some things about Hulk Hogan because as an adult, there has been, in many ways, an inherent disappointment that has come with being a fan of Hulk Hogan. There's some embarrassment and disappointment that goes along with him being a part of a sport that you love. So I wrote down my thoughts, and I figured before we start the podcast this week, I would read my thoughts. I'm glad I've had a few days to sit with all of this because honestly, I don't know what I would have said in the immediate knee-jerk moment after finding out Hulk Hogan passed away. When someone dies, even a famous person, even someone you've never met or barely know, if they meant something to you, it takes time to process. And Hulk Hogan meant a lot to me, for better and for worse. Over the past few days, I've read so many posts from people trying to make sense of his legacy. Make no mistake, Hulk Hogan is one of the most divisive figures in wrestling history. And he leaves behind a complicated legacy, both in and out of the ring. Mark Henry made a post recently about the idea of Hulkamania. And that's what I keep coming back to. The idea. When I was a kid, I didn't have many people around to guide me, to lift me up, to help me understand right from wrong. But I had this red and yellow, mustached, skulleted, bandana-wearing hot dog skin character on my TV every week, sometimes daily, thanks to my worn-out VHS tapes. He preached the demandments of Hulkamania. Say your prayers. Take your vitamins. Believe in yourself. And I did. Hulk Hogan was undoubtedly my hero. That idea, the feeling of Hulkamania, bonded me and my grandmother in ways that still brings tears to my eyes. I struggle sometimes to remember her voice, her face, but I remember how she made me feel, especially when we watched wrestling together. We shared those moments through Hulk Hogan. So much so that when she passed away on April 1st, 1995, I placed a Hulk Hogan action figure in her casket so that in some way she would always remember me and I could always be with her. That is the weight that this character carried in my life. About 10 years ago, I got to meet Hulk Hogan. And I don't know if it was Terry Bollea or Hulk Hogan standing in front of me, but whoever it was gave me 5 minutes of complete presence, eye contact, focus, kindness. I told him my story, born with cerebral palsy, how he brought me and my grandma together, how he inspired me in some ways to become a wrestler. And I'll never forget that. He treated me with respect, dignity, and compassion. In that moment, he was exactly who I remembered him to be. The Immortal Hulk Hogan. But here's the truth. I can't tell you how to feel about Hulk Hogan, and I won't try to. Because I know how hard it is when someone you looked up to lets you down. In the last decade, Terry Bollea and the version of Hulk Hogan he continued to embody made choices that hurt a lot of people. He said and did things that don't align with the values he once pretended to stand for. He supported people and ideologies that cause real harm. That's not okay. And I've wrestled with that a lot. Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler to me. He felt like family. But life, people, family, it's rarely black and white. I grew up with a father who was physically and mentally abusive. He scarred me in ways I still carry. And yet, I still love him. I still miss him. My mother was a drug addict. She hurt me too. But I carry love for her just the same. Because love doesn't always make sense. It doesn't always mean approval. And it's possible to feel conflicting things at once. Grief, anger, sadness, and gratitude. So no, I didn't know Terry Bollea. But I feel like I knew Hulk Hogan. And even though those were supposed to be different people, that line blurred a long time ago. Today I'm not here to debate the man for you. I'm just here to talk about facts, my opinions, Aaron's opinions. We're here to honor what the character once meant to us. You don't have to do the same. I respect whatever your truth is. But today, for me, and me alone, I choose to remember the feeling of Hulkamania. The bond it helped form between a scared little boy and his grandma. The belief it gave me when I didn't have much else. And the moment it came full circle, when I stood in front of him and saw my childhood stand before my very eyes. I'm certainly not perfect. You're not perfect. No one is perfect. But now, for those of us who lace up our boots and step into the ring, we carry a piece of that legacy, whether we want to or not. A lot of us do what we do because of Hulk Hogan. And while we too are flawed people, we have the opportunity to be better, to live better, to perform better, to embody the idea of Hulkamania in a new and more meaningful way. We can take the best parts, the belief, the inspiration, the connection, and build on them with honesty, humility, and empathy. So the next generation doesn't just believe in their heroes, they're made better by them. The idea of Hulkamania that can still live on. Not through perfection, but through intention. Hulk Hogan, rest in peace. Thank you for the memories. And thank you for the power of Hulkamania.
This is where the power lies, man. In the power of the Hulkster, the largest arms in the world. Hulkamania is running wild like it's never ran before. I've got a whole really big following of little Hulkamaniacs, man, and the image of Hulkamania, the mystique of Hulkamania, what it stands for is impeccable. I'm just the man. I get as close to it as I can, man. I make mistakes sometimes, but this image of Hulkamania, of the training, the saying your prayers, eating your vitamins, and believing in yourself is impeccable. There aren't that many role models or heroes in the world today that you can look up to, but this image of Hulk Hogan, man, Hulkamania is unbelievable. With the training, the prayers, and the vitamins. I adapted the 3 demandments, and now that I got a whole generation of little Hulksters following me, man, even after old Hulk Hogan is long dead and gone, Hulkamania and the positive theme is gonna live forever, man. Want to live forever? And if your answer is yes, then breathe your last breath into my body. I can save you. My Hulkamaniacs can save you. We can turn the darkness that you live in into the light. The yellow of Hulkamania will light up that valley of death. It stands for the belief, but also the red of Hulkamania, which guaranteed me immortality, brother. When the big man upstairs spilled his blood on this cross, he swore to me that Hulkamania would never die. Someday we're gonna wrestle, man. I don't know what your schedule is. I gotta go to New York, Tokyo, Japan, Africa, Asia, and all points in between. But someday we're gonna be in heaven together, man. I know we're gonna be booked in that same time in heaven. And when I come to heaven, you and I are gonna wrestle for the WWF title. Now that you know also what the red and the yellow of Hulkamania mean, what are you gonna do when Hulk Hogan and the red of immortality run wild on you?
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Iron on Wrestling with Gregory Iron. I'm your host, Gregory Iron. This is episode 303. And it's a weird show today. 303 pounds. That's what I remember in the Super WrestleMania video game. They listed Hulk Hogan as 6'7", 303. And this is episode 303. And it is our Hulk Hogan episode. I don't know if you heard. You might have missed it if you're a wrestling fan this week. But the immortal Hulk Hogan is not immortal. He died. And now we're going to spend today talking about him.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. Pardon the interruption.
Hey, brother.
Aaron Bauer's in the building.
Hi.
Yeah, man. I don't know, man. Kind of a bummer, huh?
A little bit, yeah.
How are you? I'm sure a lot of people have reached out to you.
Well, as I stated, people started reaching out to me like I was an immediate member of Hulk Hogan's family for some reason. I guess perhaps maybe over the years, my connection with Hulk Hogan resonated enough with people to make them think that perhaps maybe I would be a little bit distraught by the situation.
And are you?
As the days have passed, I wouldn't say distraught is the word, but it's sunk in a little bit more. I don't know. It's obviously, like many people have said this week, it's a complicated history with Hulk Hogan for many people, particularly over the last 10 years, with some of the things that have come out about him and some of the things that he's done. Today, we're going to try to pay tribute to the character, but also talk about the bad, the in-between, some of our favorite memories and moments, and then we're going to do some more stuff bonus on Patreon, covering Hulk Hogan. We're going to be reading some of your comments, questions about Hogan over on the free episode on Patreon, but then we're going to do some bonus stuff over there as we cover SummerSlam, which is this weekend, our predictions for that, plethora of other stuff. Patreon.com/Iron Wrestling. Best way to support the show. $3 get you in the door for audio, $5 for video, $9 you get to pick a bonus podcast subject, and you get involved in the live chat, which we'll be doing sometime in the next couple weeks here. You go up in tiers and you get stuff in the mail. We'll be shipping stuff out in September for those that are in the $25 and up tier. So, if you'd like to be a part of that, sign up now. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you download the podcast at, and subscribe to the YouTube, as we've been uploading a bunch of videos. We uploaded a few Hulk Hogan videos this week, including a short little clip of him hanging upside down inside of a steel cage in 1998 against Sting. Who knew that Hulk Hogan was working that hard at house shows in WCW in 1998, huh?
Hey, Hulk Hogan, he was having fun, it looked like.
Yeah. Did you see the clip?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't even know where to begin. I guess we begin with Thursday. How did you get the news that Hulk Hogan had passed?
A coworker had texted to me, and I immediately screenshot and went to send to you, and there was already a text message from you saying Hulk died as I sent the screenshot that I had to you. So I continued on sending the screenshot, and then, I don't know, it was somber, and then I did a 10-bell salute right at work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with Hardcore Holly.
Very nice.
And Robert Raines, a couple of my clients, good friends there.
Any relation to Roman?
I think that he may think that that's true. I don't believe it is.
Okay. All right.
But he looks just like him.
Really?
Yeah.
You have to send us a picture. We'll do a side-by-side comparison.
Well, it's a video. So if you want to upload that video to Iron on Wrestling, I got permission.
Sure.
From everybody. So
sounds like a plan. Yeah. I
did you weep immediately?
No.
Okay.
No. So
because this past year has really been like a whirlwind for you with your love and your maybe falling out of love with the Hulkster. So I wondered about you.
Well, when you contacted me, you called me later that day and asked me if I wanted to do an emergency podcast, and I said, no. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I needed to take some time to process it. I actually wrote some stuff down that I don't know if I'm going to read as we record this. I might record it after the fact by myself, because I don't know if I can read it. I wanted to find the right words to contextualize how I'm feeling, because there's a lot of good, bad, and different feelings about the whole situation, and I'm sure we'll cover it a little bit. But so I had spent the night over Johnny and Candace's. I was hanging out with little baby Quill, because they were in town.
You actually made time from this week.
Shut up, okay? Yeah, Johnny made sure to send me videos, of course, trying to guilt trip me more and more, and so Uncle Greg came over for a sleepover, and then I got up early on Thursday, and I was doing a little bit of running around. And the only thing I really had planned on Thursday was at noon, there was a John Cena Ultimate figure that was exclusive to the San Diego Comic-Con that was dropping at noon. I like to set my calendar for that stuff, so I remember. I do like collecting the Ultimate figures. And it was sometime around 11:30, as I was driving back to the Garganos, that I got a text from bestest friend Mike, and it was sort of like obtuse, I guess. Like, it didn't say that Hulk Hogan had died, but it was like kind of consoling me in a joking manner, and I didn't really know what was happening. And then I started to look at social media, and I was like, oh, okay, Hulk Hogan passed away. And then I got more texts and more messages, and I screenshotted and sent it to someone. Might have been you or someone else, but like I had like 15 Instagram posts, like, sorry for your loss. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't, what?
Little did people know that Hulk Hogan had already blocked you from Twitter because you were a little psychotic at the time.
Ironically, he did block me about 11 years ago. It wasn't psychotic. I was just jokingly, I sent him
I'm in your house, Hulk.
No, I sent him a screen cap of a picture of him, like, on an early Saturday Night's Main Event. He had like a crazy face. He was doing a promo with Junkyard Dog. And I said, I only hope that I'm half as handsome as Hulk Hogan is in this picture right here one day. And for some reason that prompted a block. So,
I wonder if he went to your Twitter. You know, you can go to Twitter now, X, and see who your most famous follower was, or who your page was viewed by, the most famous person your page was viewed by.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
on
found
there
out
much.
mine.
Who's that?
Denise Salcedo.
Oh. So what'd you look at one time?
Maybe.
Okay.
You might have clicked on it by accident. I'm not sure.
Sounds about right. So yeah, so I was like, my brain was in a whirlwind of emotions that I was going to see Fantastic Four at 2 p.m. And around 2 p.m. I remembered that I had forgot to buy that John Cena figure, and then it had sold out. So I was like, son of a bitch, Hulk Hogan, you made me forget. You made me forget about this John Cena figure. And yeah, I started seeing the tweets from people and what people were posting, and I screen capped these right away from that day. So much has come out since then, but I'm going to read a few of them that were being posted just to give you an idea. Again, you've probably seen these, but I don't think we're going to break any new ground with this episode today. But I don't know. It is what it is. Sting posted, Hulk Hogan, the greatest of all time. Can't thank you enough for all that you did for me and for wrestling fans all over the world. I loved you, and I will miss you. My friend, Terry Bollea, R.I.P. Ric Flair, I am absolutely shocked to hear about the passing of my close friend Hulk Hogan. Hulk has been by my side since we started in the wrestling business. An incredible athlete, talent, friend, and father. Our friendship has meant the world to me. He was always there for me even when I didn't ask him to be. He was one of the first to visit me when I was in the hospital with a 2% chance of living, and he prayed by my bedside. Hulk also lent me money when Reed was sick. Hulkster, no one will ever compare to you. Rest in peace, my friend. Triple H said WWE would not be where it is today without the larger-than-life characters that compete in the ring, and few, if any, loomed larger than Terry Hulk Hogan Bollea. He was the archetype of what it meant to be a superstar, a global sensation that inspired millions to work hard at whatever it was they wanted to accomplish, and a look that made him recognizable to fans around the world. Hulk Hogan, clad in red and yellow or NWO black and white, was simply put iconic. There was no one like the Hulkster, and there will be very few. There will very well may never be another. My family sends their condolences to his family and friends. Undertaker posted, you got me, brother? No, he didn't post that.
Oh, you got me, brother.
He posted, the wrestling world has lost a true legend. His contributions to the business are immeasurable, and for that, I am appreciative. Thank you, Hulk Hogan. John Cena just posted a photo of Andre and Hogan from WrestleMania 3. Vince McMahon even came out of hiding. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he made a post. The world lost a treasure today. Hulk Hogan was the greatest WWE superstar of all time. Someone who was loved and admired around the world. He was a trailblazer, the first performer who transitioned from being a wrestling star into a global phenomenon. He posted a bunch of other stuff. I'm not going to read all of that. The Miz posted about it. Kurt Angle posted about it. Kane, Matt Cardona, Ryback, Vince Russo, Tony Schiavone. I thought Tony Schiavone actually had one of the more classier posts. People were kind of giving AEW flack because they didn't mention anything right away. And then Tony Schiavone, did you see what he said about
I did
Hogan?
not watch. Okay, full disclosure, I haven't watched anything on Hogan.
Nothing.
Okay. Until right now, when we sat down to record, I put on Hogan versus Iron Sheik in the match where he won the championship.
Yes.
Madison Square Garden.
Where he cheated the whole time.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. I don't know that I've ever watched that match all the way through.
Yeah.
And it's not even that long of a match, but
No. It's just Hulk Hogan squashing the Iron Sheik and cheating the whole time.
Yeah.
Which he didn't need to do, by the way.
Nah, man, but the people loved it.
Can you just imagine if, instead of Hogan beating the Sheik, if Lord Zoltan would have went into business for himself a couple weeks early in one of the Sheik's few title defenses and beat the Iron Sheik?
Yeah.
Wrestling world will look a lot different today.
Oh, man, I would have loved that.
Let me play for you in the audience what Tony Schiavone said about Hulk Hogan, because I think it was short, sweet, and one of the classier statements after, by the way, that he got a lot of flack on social media because people have nothing fucking better to do than give people a hard time. Basically, someone said, like, oh, wow, you must be distraught for losing such a good friend. And Tony Schiavone said, good friend, no. Coworker, yes. So people took that as he didn't give a fuck. And then he proceeded to say one of the classier and best posts about the passing of Hulk Hogan. So let me play that for you right now.
Okay.
There it is. Tony Schiavone. I think, very, very well spoken. And you know what? Tony gets a lot of flack because, you could argue that, today he may or may not add too much to commentary sometimes at AEW, but, he worked with Hogan for a long time, and I think that was one of the better tributes to him this week.
Yeah, good for Shivani. I like Shivani still. He's maybe not my number one guy to go to, but I don't mind Shivani.
Yeah, and again, when it comes to Hulk Hogan calls, he probably has one of the more iconic calls of all time. When you talk about that Bash of the Beach turn, I'm sure we'll be jumping around a lot. But
you go to hell. You go straight to hell.
Yep, Hulk Hogan can go to hell. Yeah. I don't know. There's just been so many thoughts and feelings going through my head the last few days, and initially, talking to Johnny about it, I said, like, I think you guys are probably going to end up doing a tribute on the stage. And he's like, you think? And I was like, well, I mean, they did it for Dusty, who wasn't a roster member. They did it for Piper. They did it for, who am I forgetting? Warrior. I said, there's no way they don't do it for Hogan. You know what I mean? Like, this shit doesn't exist if it's not Hulk Hogan, right? That's where it starts. Hulk Hogan was the guy that changed wrestling in the 80s. Like, there were definitely people that he pulled from, Dusty, Austin Idol, Billy Graham, but it was Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura, yes. It was Vince McMahon picking Hulk Hogan in 1983, sending over one of the photographers to the AWA to basically send a message to Hulk, because this is before cell phones and all that, and be like, hey, contact Vince McMahon. They have a conversation. He convinces them to leave Vern Gagne and the AWA during the Christmas shows in 1983 to tell Vern that he's not coming back. He shows up. He aligns with Bob Backlund. And this is right after the night that Hogan gives his notice to Vern is the night that Backlund drops the title to the Sheik. So I believe, without looking, that was December 23rd, 1983. It was right before Christmas. And, Hogan shows up on All-Star Wrestling, and, Backlund makes his way out. Hogan makes his way in. We get that match at Madison Square Garden, January of 1984. Hulkamania is born, and, that's where it all begins, right? And that's 41 years ago. Crazy. So I told Johnny, I was like, I think you're going to be on the stage Friday. And then he found out they were, and he's like, oh, what are the odds you're going to be at SmackDown for Hulk Hogan's tribute here in Cleveland? And I was like, boy, I don't know if I like that per se. Because listen, if you listen to the show over the last 6 years, we've obviously clowned on Hulk Hogan a lot. And especially if you're on Patreon, I think I could speak for me and Aaron both when say, like, politically, I don't think we align necessarily with some of the stuff that Hulk Hogan has supported. And that's part of the problem here, right? Like, because Terry Bollea is the guy who is on stage and he's portraying this character. But at some point, it was hard to figure out where Hulk stops and Terry begins. And sometimes some of the stuff that Terry was saying could be interpreted as Hulk, and he said it as Hulk, right? And sometimes Hulk is saying stuff and it could be interpreted as Terry. And sometimes if he's on the stand in the court of law, his penis might be 10 inches in size.
Hulk Hogan's penis.
Hulk Hogan's penis, right? Because that was a defining.
Series 6.
I'm not sure.
He looked like he was probably a 7. You ever seen? Because like in the 80s, in the 70s, when you'd see him in the jeans and they were tight,
Yeah.
You see like his knots don't fit.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard to distinguish the two and separate the two in some cases.
To be fair, that's almost every wrestler I've ever met.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
You get to a point because you played this character so much. You play it sometimes more than you're being your real self.
Yes, and the thing is, like, there is a sort of duality that comes with being a pro wrestler, because it's one of these weird things where you are playing a character, but there are parts of yourself, and in some cases, there's a lot of yourself, right? The best characters are made up of you, things that you identify with and understand. And Hulk Hogan created this character and this persona that perhaps in some ways was Terry Bollea, but was also something that, a lot of young kids from the 80s and the 90s could identify with and believe in. And I don't know. It just over the last few days, it's been a lot to process. And again, we have made fun of Hulk. We had a segment pretty regularly on the show, Hulk Hogan's Lie of the Week,
which everyone else copied.
Yes, and he the weird thing about the whole thing was because see, Hulk was the constant worker, right? And the guy was making up stuff despite the fact that he was Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he didn't do anything cool. Like, we've known so many shitbag wrestlers over the years that make up stuff. And it's like, yeah, of course he has to make up stuff because he's not actually successful. Hulk Hogan was the most successful wrestler of all time in the 80s and 90s. Like, he transcended 2 eras, like ushering in Hulkamania in the 80s. Then that comes on the downturn probably around 1990, particularly when the steroid trial begins. And then a few years later, changes it up. The NWO becomes a thing, wears black, and he becomes the biggest bad guy of the 90s and is one of the first guys to like really usher in the Monday Night War, right? Like him and the NWO, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, they made bad guys cool. It changed professional wrestling. There aren't a lot of wrestlers that you could say that about 2 eras in 2 different characters, right? Like, it's kind of crazy to think about. And Hogan did that. Your first memory of Hulk Hogan begins with Saturday night's main event.
October 5th, 1985.
Versus Nikolai Volkov.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. And
well, no. The reason why I wanted to watch wrestling was because my first memory of Hulk Hogan was him being in a cartoon with the Junkyard Dog on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
In that weird 10:30 time slot that like all the good cartoons were done. So it was like 10:30. I don't know what to watch. Mm-hmm. Flipping through channels, I saw an African-American male cartoon and I went, Mr. T? Mr. T has a cartoon. I'll watch this. And I was like, this guy don't have a mohawk though. What am I watching? I watched a cartoon and you know, they were smart because they spliced it with real wrestling promos and you know, so you knew what the cartoon characters, that they were real people, and it was kind of an advertisement for wrestling, which it brought me to. I went, oh man, this is that stuff on Channel 32. I change all the time at noon, you know, on the USA Network, the what was it called then? I'm not sure now. All American Wrestling, I think.
Yeah.
And I would always change the channel because I hated sports. But I saw this cartoon. I saw these people talking. They were larger than life. I wanted to see what wrestling was actually about. I tried to rent WrestleMania 2, I believe it was. No, it was WrestleMania 1 because Hogan and Mr. T were on the cover. And I tried to rent that from the local video store up the road. And my dad wouldn't let me. I was very upset. Couldn't understand why. He made me wait. Told me to stay up. At 11:30, he tuned into what I thought was going to be Saturday Night Live. And it was Saturday night's main event. And that's when I fell in love with Hulkamania. Plus, there was a wrestling wedding that night. I mean, come on. How could I not be hooked?
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan was wrestling Nikolai Volkov. I swore, I just thought Hogan was going to lose. I prayed that Jesus would somehow allow Hulk Hogan to win that match. And apparently, Jesus had the book. So he made that happen. Hogan blew his nose, spit, and shined his shoes with the Russian flag. There was nothing better, man.
Sure.
And then there were other matches after it. But there was a freaking wedding that Roddy Piper interrupted. And, you know, Hulk Hogan versus the Nikolai Volkov in a flag match.
Yeah.
And I was hooked, man. That was a superhero right there.
At what point do you think, because, you know, you were aging as I'm just discovering wrestling in 1990, when do you think Hulkamania started to waver for you a little bit? Because like you got to experience him and Piper, you got to experience, you could argue that the 3 most important feuds that he had in that time frame would be Piper, Andre, obviously, because that was a big deal with the turn, and then of course him and Macho Man, which was like a, you know, the whole story from
that was a dream.
Yeah, from before WrestleMania 4 all the way up to WrestleMania 5, like a year and a half between him and the Macho Man, right?
Yeah. All 3 of those feuds, and then leading into Ultimate Warrior, all that was excellent, man. That was Hogan, and I never thought Hogan was going to lose.
Yeah.
And it was April 1st, when he wrestled the Ultimate Warrior at that WrestleMania. And I was convinced after Warrior pinned him that they were going to do an April Fool's joke. April Fool's, that's not the real finish.
Okay.
And then they'd go to like a real finish where Hogan won because I just couldn't believe Hogan lost.
Yeah.
And fantastic. And then things started to change a little. I started liking Shawn Michaels.
Mm-hmm.
As I kind of liked him. He was like my favorite rocker. Kind of like how Luke was my favorite bushwhacker.
Sure. And then he molested you.
Until he molested me.
Yeah.
But, so Shawn, and then Shawn's heel turn, and all of a sudden I was getting edgy. But I was also, I think, 13 maybe.
Sure.
So right around then, teenager, I was ready to rebel, just like Shawn Michaels. I want to put everybody through a barbershop window.
Yeah.
And then Hogan was taking some time off, and Hogan went to WCW, and I didn't like because I kind of liked Ric Flair. Flair was a heel, and I think I just saw Hogan win too much already.
It makes sense. And so when I started watching in 1990, obviously I'm exposed to the Ultimate Warrior thing. And, I think now even though the cartoon doesn't really exist in the original form, it's in reruns, so I see it occasionally. But, like, I think I'm living through peak cartoon era of WWF, right? Like, they've laid the groundwork in the 80s, and I think that sets the tone for what the WWF is in the next few years of the 90s, right? You have the Warriors established, Macho King is becoming the Macho Man again. Obviously, you have Hulk Hogan, who becomes my guy right away. And then Sid comes in, right? You have the feud with Sergeant Slaughter and that whole thing. Again, it's just everything is so over the top. Jake the Snake Roberts, Rick Martel, one of the first very cartoony feuds when you think about it. There was realism though too, right? Like the blindness in the eye, and then of course Jake goes into the feud with the Warrior and betrays him in those vignettes, and the Undertaker is coming around, and the first traumatic experience of my childhood is the Undertaker and Hulk Hogan, Survivor Series 1991. Me crying, thinking that Hulkamania being dead meant that Hulk Hogan was dead. And, obviously we know now that Hulk Hogan's head did not even touch the chair, even remotely close. Don't know how I felt for that. And while people are turning their backs on Hulk Hogan by 1992, and I think it really begins with, we all know the story now. I didn't watch Royal Rumble 92 live. It's one of the few pay-per-views that I missed for some reason live. But if you watched it live, you know that Hulk Hogan gets booed when he pulls Sid out of the ring. There's a big cheer when he gets eliminated by Sid. By that point, and even you can even go back to, I didn't realize it as a kid, but if you watch Survivor Series 91 when The Undertaker's coming out, and I'm personally terrified of him, and there's kids in the crowd that are terrified of him, Hogan is getting booed. The Undertaker is being cheered in November of 1991. I think people are sick of Hulk Hogan winning. And so what it comes down to is when I come in and Hulk Hogan is becoming my superhero, Vince is already trying to transition and pivot to someone else, right? Like that's what he did with the Warrior. The idea was, here's this Warrior, he's in his 20s, someone new, someone fresh. And when you really think about it, it's crazy. Hogan was probably, 38, 39? He's thinking Hogan's done?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing left in the tank for this guy. He did the same thing with Savage the next year, and then he comes out of retirement, and then basically he's a part-time wrestler by 93, which again is crazy. Like rebooking things could have been so much better with Macho Man near the top of the card. People are sick of Hogan. Hogan leaves for a little bit, and this is because of the steroid scandal. In 93, he comes back. He does the first sign of politicking that we know of that's pretty apparent in retrospect, where he ends up winning the championship after Brett loses to Yoko. Listening to Kevin Nash's podcast today before we recorded, did you listen to the whole thing?
No, not the whole thing, but enough of it.
So it was interesting because I never really heard anyone else confirm it, but Nash basically said his second day in the company was King of the Ring 93, and he said that day there was a weird feeling in the air because Hogan didn't want to do the favor for Brett going forward. So that kind of confirms what we've heard for years, was there was at least a belief, as far as the locker room knew, that Hogan was going to do business with Brett. He obviously didn't do that, which I think we've touched on it before. it's so weird to think that Hogan didn't want to do that. Like, obviously Hogan was used to working with giants. But Bret, if he would have worked with Bret at SummerSlam, that probably would have been one of Hogan's better matches, if not maybe his best technical match up to that point. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, like, come on. Like, what are we doing? Like, before that...
Bret, I don't remember Bret having a bad match. So.
Yeah. Like, I mean, by 93, if we're talking just WWF, what do you say Hogan's, like, best actual matches? Like, now, mind you, the Hogan character is based on the charisma and the moments. But if you pick best match up to 93, like, I feel like you probably got to go, in my opinion... him and the Genius and or Mr. Perfect. Those matches in 1990 might be his best stuff because he had a guy who could bump around for him in Perfect. The Genius brought out that comedic side of Hogan that we didn't see too often.
Him and Warrior.
Him and Warrior. Yeah, that is a very well worked match, all things considered. And as we know, Pat Patterson laid out that match. That's one of the few times that they actually worked through the match beforehand, which is probably for the best because if we fast forward and we see the rematch in 1998, one of the key factors missing from that match was Pat Patterson agenting the match, clearly. But yeah, so I think missed opportunity with the Bret stuff in 93. I ended up discovering WCW because of Hulk Hogan going to the promotion in 1994. I'm following him through his movies. You know, Hollywood Comes Calling, and there's Thunder in Paradise, which they turn into movies on VHS as well. And then you got Suburban Commando.
Did you like Thunder in Paradise?
I watched it all the time.
Did you like it?
I was a child, so yes.
Okay.
I literally drew Thunder in Paradise comics.
I drew some Thunder in Paradise too, and I referenced it a lot, and I probably watched every week, but it was on right before Nitro, right? That's probably why.
Before Nitro? No, so I watched it in syndication in like 93, so I was watching it
I think
it
was
weekend.
the lead-in for Nitro for a while. That's why I watched it.
It probably was.
Yeah,
but I was watching it when it was actually coming out. Like, it was around the same time as like Baywatch and stuff in the afternoon on the weekend. I literally would, because Sting was on an episode, so at the time Hogan was feuding with Vader by like 95, so I was drawing Vader into the Thunder in Paradise comic because I wanted him to be a villain on the show as well.
Mm-hmm.
But to go back, you know, like Mr. Nanny came out in October of 93, so that was like my birthday gift. So even though Hogan wasn't even with the promotion, he was still, you know, my favorite. I loved Bret by 93, but Hogan was still number one in my heart. That's what me and my grandma bonded on. That's how I discover Hulk Hogan, right? Comes to WCW. People really aren't having it. But again, I'm a 7-year-old child, so I'm all about Hulk Hogan in WCW 94, 95. It gets even more cartoony. So much so that looking back on it, I don't even know how I even enjoyed Hulk Hogan in WCW in that time. I can't imagine being, you know, you're like, what, a 16-year-old boy at this point? Like, how could you even, how does one cope with watching Hulk Hogan versus the Dungeon of Doom?
Dude, it was comedy.
Yeah.
Unintentional comedy. Like, me and Tiger Rudo still send each other text messages from time to time because we would watch Nitro together or WCW together. And, you know, some of our texts to each other are, it's not hot.
Yep.
And there are no Hulkamaniacs here.
Right.
So, cartoonishly bad. I remember so bad.
Yeah.
Him falling through some magic hole in the universe.
Yeah.
And then
So there's no Hulkamaniacs here.
Yeah. Then there was the father. He was there, which was that the Grand Wizard, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Not the Grand
No,
Wizard.
it was the Wizard. Just the Wizard.
Yes. Yeah, the Grand Wizard was WWF. Already
Yeah.
died. All that stuff. Yeah, you know, the Ric Flair retirement stuff in retrospect was like, geez, why did they do that? Then
I remember
Flair
being upset about that. That Hogan wrestled Flair in a retirement match, and Hogan won.
Yeah,
and
cage match, Halloween Havoc 94. Again, I'm watching all this stuff live on pay-per-view, and Flair comes back dressed as a woman, does the job for Hogan in a match that he's not even in, while dressed like a woman, as Hogan wrestles Vader in a strap match. And that would be uncensored 1995. And, you know, my grandma passes away, so I'm not getting the pay-per-views as frequently. And then what are the odds that the pay-per-view I come back for, because I'm hanging out with some kid down the street, and he goes, hey, my dad has let me order this Bash at the Beach pay-per-view. Do you want to watch? And I had heard that Diesel and Razor Ramon had been in the WCW and they were invading. That's what I was hearing from school. And that was weird to me that WWF guys were showing up on TV. And so I watched this pay-per-view, and here comes Hulk Hogan to save the day. And, if you didn't live through that, I don't think you understand how big of a deal that was. And like, I tried to talk to my brother, right, who's born in 1997. And I said, like, what would you say is like the biggest wrestling moment of your lifetime? Like, what is it for you that like you watched and lived through? And I think he picked like, it's hard to say, but like there's been some good ones recently, like CM Punk coming out at Survivor Series. And I'm like, yeah, that was a great moment, but like, God damn, you missed the Bash at the Beach Hulk Hogan turn, right? Like what is, I don't know if there's anything bigger than that. And if, again, you're, almost 10 years my senior, you see that when it happens, you know much more about wrestling than I do as a 9-year-old boy at that point. I know wrestling is set up, but I'm still utterly shocked by Hulk Hogan becoming a bad guy and the garbage that's being thrown in the ring. Like, there's a inherent disappointment and shock that I don't know if I've ever truly felt since that moment.
I just thought it was going to be Luger.
Because Luger always turns.
Yeah, and I think, didn't Luger get knocked out at the beginning of the match and taken back?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, well, that's easy then.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'll come back out and look like he's going to make the save.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think I've told you this before, I had been reading in the sheets that there was some discussion about Hulk Hogan maybe being the third guy. And I just wrote it off as nonsense.
Yeah, like how could that even be possible?
I was like, he's not going to do that. He almost did it when he wore the black with Kevin Sullivan. He almost joined the Dungeon of Doom.
Which, we
used to call it the Dungeon of Dumb.
I can't. There's got to be some sort of interviews out there where Hulk Hogan talks about why he did the dark side of Hulkamania, because I listen to a lot of shit and I can't think of anything where someone said, why did you just randomly start wearing black in 95 for like a couple months? And like you wore like a Phantom of the Opera mask and you're cutting these weird promos. Like, what was up with that? Was that like a test for something else? Like, because it was strange that he was wearing the black.
To me, that's the equivalent of the negative stuff that happened with Terry Bollea.
Wait a minute. Stop. I want you to elaborate, but I don't know if I want you to elaborate.
I'm just saying, he went through these weird phases sometimes.
Are you comparing the dark side of Hulkamania to the dark side public image of Terry Bollea in his later years?
I'm saying that, not that he did something comparable, but the character went off into a weird place that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
Right? And it was for a few months, and then we didn't really hear about it again, and then he fully turned heel. Terry Bollea had this stretch of time, and I think Nash talked about it on his podcast, where it was like, in one tape, he says the things he said and has sex with his best friend's wife, and it's all caught on videotape. That was like a blurb or a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't going around doing that at all events.
Sure.
Or, you never heard of him doing that a bunch of times.
Right.
So I'm saying, like, when you talk about sometimes the character and the person who portrays that character sometimes get confused, it was almost like that. Like, he almost had to mimic, I went through this dark time as Hulk Hogan. I'm kind of doing that in real life.
We're skipping ahead a little bit, obviously. This, of course, was the sex tape that came out, leaked from someone who supposedly took the tape from Bubba the Love Sponge or something, which, by the way, let's talk about that for a second. Someone obviously was leaking information to Bubba, and Bubba, once Hogan died, came out and said something on his show that, he was sad that he never got to say goodbye or apologize to Hulk in the way that he would like to and blah, blah, blah. But you know what would have been a great way to make amends silently with Hulk Hogan? Maybe not take the information that he was hearing from someone and putting it on your podcast for 6 to 8 weeks, because I don't know if we talked about this on air. That's why when Hulk Hogan dying, we had been talking about it. I kind of felt it was coming because of all this Bubba stuff.
Yeah, I told you when I got the text message from my coworker, she said, "Are you all right? I know how big into wrestling you are and how much you loved Hulk Hogan when you were a kid." And I said, "Oh, not unexpected." Greg had already told me that, he broke it down for me that Hulk Hogan hadn't actually come out and said, no, I'm okay, Hulkamaniacs, and I'll be at my new store opening in Tennessee or whatever.
Yeah.
So I did think something to what maybe could have been perceived as a conspiracy theory at first. I thought there was something to what you were saying.
But I mean, I know how I find it kind of disgusting. Do you feel it? Do you feel it's kind of wrong for like supposedly someone that he wants to make amends with that was once his friend for him to go on his radio show and broadcast his information that clearly his family did not want out there? I mean,
I don't know how much stock I put into this friend that says, here, have sex with my wife.
Well,
and I'll videotape it and put it out there to everybody.
Supposedly he did not put it out there. Apparently it was another guy who ended up taking the tape or whatever, but that's neither here nor there. Like, I'm talking about the here and now. Like, I can't imagine a situation where I'm going out of the way, Johnny is sick and or dying. I'm getting firsthand information from someone who is close to the situation on the inside, and then I'm going on a podcast and talking about it every week, despite no one in the family wanting it to be known. It just seems kind of scummy.
Right. I understand.
So, the tape comes out, right? And more so than the sex part is the N-word part. Now, I've taken the time to listen to a lot of stuff over the last week in an effort to try to process things, and I've even gone back and listened to stuff from 7 years ago when it came out, and he got fired from WWE in 2015. Mind you, the tape itself was from like 2007. Hogan was on Booker T's podcast, and this was 7 years ago. And Booker T was talking about how to Hogan while on the show, like, he didn't think Hogan was a racist, and he had never heard Hogan say that word. And again, this is from Booker T's own thoughts and feelings. He said usually something to the effect of racists will just throw that word around. And he asked Hogan his feelings on it and everything. And he went into some rambling about how Brian Knobbs is one of his closest friends, Booker T saying this, and how he gave Brian Knobbs a pass to say the N-word. And Booker T talking about how he knows Knobbs would always have his back and blah, 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 and how he had a conversation with Knobbs recently, and Knobbs said he can't say that anymore, even though he gave him a pass. And Booker T talking about how people want to find things to be upset about. Unrelated to Booker T, I came across an interview with Steve Harvey, where Steve Harvey was talking about the Hulk Hogan situation. Again, this is after it happened. And he said that he was offended by what Hulk Hogan said by it. But should Hulk Hogan lose his life and career because of it? No, because if that's the case, then if we're all, we all have situations where if someone was recording us saying something, we all might not have a job. Listen, there have been times in my life where I've done stuff that I'm not particularly proud of. And there have been times where, I've wished death upon people. Okay. And I feel like in some cases, if that was recorded, someone inevitably would probably get offended by that, right? And the whole thing is very complicated. And again, at the end of the broadcast, I have a whole thing that I want to say, but at the end of the day, if you are upset about the Hulk Hogan thing, whether it be the N-word thing, the support of Trump, it got worse for Hulk Hogan during the same time where he got canceled for saying the N-word. If you recall, audio recording and a transcript of what he said to Nick Hogan while he was in jail, the John Graziano situation. They basically said, like, this kid had bad vibes and he was negative, and, God laid something heavy on this kid because he was negative, essentially. I'm paraphrasing. But, also, I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, the exact transcript of what Hulk and Nick were saying on this recorded prison call. This is a real exchange between the two. Hogan says, you and me been sitting on some serious phone dialogue here, N-word, with the A at the end. Nick Hogan says, yeah, nibba. Hogan says the N-word with the A at the end 2 times and says that means you are my best friend. So he has to explain to Nick what that means, apparently.
You know that God gave you this vibe and this energy that you and I are going to live forever, bro. I just hope we don't come back as a couple. I don't want to say it. Blizzak Gizeyes. You know what I'm saying. Nick says brutal. Hogan also talked to Nick about possibly being transferred from the adult jail to juvenile hall. Nick says it's down in St. Pete and it's mixed race and we get along with everybody, so that's fine. Hulk says, your mom went there and said it was mainly Blizz. You know what I'm saying? Nick says. Hulk responded, and that's some of the ladies there that, run the score. Nice Liz 80s, Nick says, I would go down there. I would make friends with all those kids down there. I guarantee it because you know how all that Blizz Piz love us. I mean, again, this is utter stupidity that they were saying this on a recorded line. And I think maybe Hogan thought that no one would be able to understand Carney, but Blizzak Gizai is pretty apparent what you're saying there. So I can't tell you how to feel about the Hulk Hogan thing, right? If you are offended, if you hate Hulk Hogan, I feel like that is your right to feel that way, right? As recently as, 2 months ago, Shelton Benjamin, MVP, after essentially Hulk, the scuttlebutt, the word going around, when he came back after being fired in 2015, when he was going to apologize to the locker room, was that his apology wasn't so much about being remorseful for using the N-word, but more so to be careful what you say, because you never know when you're being recorded, and to be careful. So that's probably not the best apology. Supposedly Mark Henry had reached out to Hulk Hogan at one point after the fact and said, go on a tour with me and let's go to some more urban areas and go to like some, African-American youth centers and do some speeches and help out. And apparently Hulk Hogan was not interested in any of that. I don't know. You're allowed to feel what you feel. But there's also a good portion of people out there that, it's not as, again, it's not black and white, right? It's
Blizzak and Wizite.
Well, yeah, you can be embarrassed by the stuff that Hulk Hogan said or Terry Bollea said in the last 10 years. But I think you can also still appreciate the character and found something special in the Hulk Hogan character and Hulkamania. It's not impossible to have both of those things because sometimes in our life, the people closest to us, we have very complicated relationships with them, right? There's sometimes when people wrong us and do some really fucked up things, and we still have love for them. If I would have recorded a podcast on Thursday, I don't know what I would have said, right? Because let's just use the Chelsea Green example. She made a post acknowledging Hulk Hogan's contributions to wrestling, and then by the next day, she had to apologize for that post. And then by the next tweet, she said, I need to take a break from social media because she was getting death threats because she acknowledged Hulk Hogan's contributions to professional wrestling. I mean, what is wrong with people, man? What are we doing here? It's sad.
Everybody seems to go to the worst thing immediately.
Let's take a break here and pay some bills. We come back. We're going to talk about the return of Hulk Hogan to the WWF in 2002, the latter years of WCW perhaps, and some more stuff in between. And we'll do all that when we come back here on Iron on Wrestling.
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
I know you've always wanted to look like Hulk Hogan.
Have I?
Well, I did when I was a kid.
Yeah, I dressed
I
up
trained
several times.
I said my prayers. I ate my vitamins. But those vitamins could only take me so far.
Oh.
I needed to up my game now that I'm almost 50.
Steroids?
Well, not quite, but just as good.
Oh.
The nutrients and the supplements that I'm getting from good buddy of mine, good friend of mine, Mike from TNT Health.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, been really making my pythons grow to be about 24 inches.
Damn.
Yeah. Almost there. I have 22 more inches to go, and I'll be right where Hogan was. So, you know a lot about Mike, right?
Sure.
You know about his products.
I do.
You take the protein.
I
You
do.
take the glutamine.
The organic.
What's it been
protein
doing
powder.
for you?
Yeah, it's great. You know, I just got a new supply of the organic protein powder. It's, you know, it's
Sure
only
did.
156 calories per scoop, about 25 grams of protein, something like that.
Yeah,
It's
25
vanilla.
grams, baby.
Vanilla, so I can mix it with anything if I just have some water. But I do prefer a little bit of oat milk. It mixes perfectly. And
Hey, I happened to have a business meeting earlier today with Mike from TNT,
yeah.
and he told me to pass along a message to you.
Oh, what's that?
Go ahead and use some water with the protein powder instead of taking it by itself.
Okay.
Although you've taken it by
I have.
itself many
Yeah.
a time.
It doesn't go down quite as easy. But I also like the creatine before I work out, the glutamine after I work out for muscle recovery. And there's a wide variety of products that you can get at tnt-health.com to get you started on your fitness journey or keep you on the straight and narrow. And Mike has no problem holding your hand every step of the way. He's going to help you hit your goals, right? They're not just selling supplements, they're selling results. And Mike goes above and beyond the call of duty to make sure you get what you need out of the stuff that you're investing in, right? And you could save 10% on anything you buy at tnt-health.com if you use promo code IRONON, 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 and it saves you 10% on anything and everything. So I think you should go check it out because it's free to look, tnt-health.com, but maybe you should buy something because, you know, look, you're going to go to Vitamin Shop or GNC and they're not going to give you the kind of service that Mike is when it comes to making sure you get where you want to be as far as results go. TNT-health.com right now, because at TNT Health, it's about your health today, not tomorrow. Now, let me guess. When it comes to a t-shirt design, I got to imagine, based on this podcast today, that it's probably going to end up being, I don't know, you pitching an idea for Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs where it's me and you on clouds in heaven with Hulk Hogan with fishing poles. Do I have that right?
No, I was going to talk about the time when I was a drummer for Coldplay, and you and I were then spotted on the Kiss Cam together.
That's not true. That
Yeah,
didn't happen.
that happened one time.
No.
But I like your idea, so you go ahead and pitch that.
Well, you know, if I wanted to
Will
design
Juan
like
give me
that-
$5 off?
No, actually, you know, Juan Ortiz, who's been doing this for nearly 20 years, if you mention Iron On Wrestling, he'll actually knock off $20
What?
on your first design. Yeah. He's very affordable. And also considering that he's done designs for Hulk Hogan himself, which some people have tried to steal that artwork that he's created for the Hulkster. But Juan Ortiz, much like Hulk, is a one of one, right? He's done very prominent pieces of art for people like Hogan and Flair and the Young Bucks and Seth Rollins and Undertaker and so many more names in WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, and beyond. He's a great man, and he'll get you the type of artwork you need. Even if you need like something like a logo for your small business, he can get it done. So do yourself a favor. Check out Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs. Send him a message if you'd like a design done. You can hit him up on Instagram at Of the Dead Designs, Facebook.com/Of the Dead Designs, or go to his website, ofthedead.weebly.com, because Of the Dead Designs is bringing artwork to life.
Wait, the Young Bucks?
Yes, the Young Bucks, yes.
Oh, okay.
And we're back here on the show, and, you know, I mentioned we were going to talk about some more WCW stuff. When it comes to Hulk Hogan and WCW, not exactly classic matches, I would say. But because the NWO was so hot, there are some memorable moments that stick out. You know, there's, you know, the match with Piper that was not a title match at Starrcade 1996. And of course, they did the rematch where more memorable than what Hogan did was the promos where Piper was at Alcatraz, I think really stand out for Super Brawl 7. Obviously, you can't talk the NWO and Hollywood Hogan without talking Sting in that build that they fucked up at the end at Starrcade 97 after all of that. Like, I remember the talk at school was because me and my buddy were still big Hogan fans, but we did want to see Sting win. But my buddy comes to school and was like, Hogan was cheated out of the title. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? And he's like, well, Bret Hart tried to claim that like the ref counted fast for Hulk, but he didn't. And I was like, I mean, you had to like see incorrectly. Like, surely that's what they They did a fast count, and then Brett rectified the situation because the screw job had just happened. Nope. Nick Patrick counted a regular 1, 2, 3. Might have actually been a little bit slower than a standard count, to be honest. And Hulk Hogan definitely won that match at Starrcade, and then Brett definitely restarted the match, and then Sting won by submission. And then, of course, as you all remember, which I don't know why they didn't come out with the championship shirt with this on it for some reason. After Sting was silent for 18 months, he looked in the camera with the belt and said "Mamacita" for some reason. Never came out with that Sting Mamacita t-shirt after the fact. Very
Weird
sad.
too, because he didn't have a tan.
Yeah, he was not tan for the match.
Although he wore white face paint and a full bodysuit.
Sure, yeah, the tan seemed a little bit unnecessary. And honestly, that's been the joke over the years, right? Since Bischoff talked about it on his podcast. I don't think anybody was worried about Sting's tan. All right. Like that build was incredible. Sting coming from the rafters. It's honestly insane when you if you were not in that time period, to go back and see like at the speed at which they would drop Sting from the rafters, I always think about that time where he came from the rafters and saved DDP, and then they fucking shot them both back up into the rafters. That's crazy that they did that. You know what I mean? Like, incredibly dangerous, especially knowing what we know now with the stuff with Owen in '99. Obviously for a different company and a different rigger, but like,
What?
A different rigger.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the NWO stuff was iconic, but the matches, not so much, right? Like, Age in the Cage, as it's been known by the internet wrestling community, with Piper and Hogan at Halloween Havoc '97. Most memorable part of that match was like a fan jumping in the ring and getting beat up by everybody, but also Macho Man, who was not in the match. Like, that cage was ridiculously tall, and Macho Man jumps off the top of that cage into the ring.
Hey, how did he not break his leg? When
I don't
That's
know.
all we ever see anymore is guys going to the top of the cage,
Dude.
jumping off and breaking their legs.
Yeah, I don't know. It was something to behold. And any match that Hogan ever had with the Giant, either pre-NWO or during the NWO, was always atrocious. Like, we always look at the spray paint moment, right, at Hog Wild '96. No one talks about the match. You know why? Because it was awful. It was so bad. Like, every match with the Giant sucked. Halloween Havoc '95. Hog Wild '96. Sold Out '97. Literally the whole pay-per-view, with the exception of maybe that tag match with the Steiners and the ladder match with Syxx and Eddie Guerrero. That is the only shining light on that pay-per-view. Because if you want to watch Hogan versus Giant, don't. Just skip it. It's awful.
Was it worse than Hogan versus Andre the Giant?
I mean,
That was pretty bad. You know, I went back not too long ago, I'd say within the past 6 months, and rewatched Randy Savage versus Hulk Hogan from WrestleMania 5.
yeah.
I don't even like that match.
It's
It was plotting.
It's not great. It's definitely, when you think about WrestleMania era Hogan matches, it's one of the better matches, I would say. But like, I mean, if I had to rank in the first 9 WrestleManias, like the order in which I would put like top 3 Hogan matches, I'm going to go Hogan Warrior as 1. I'm going to go, I mean, I guess I would go Hogan Slaughter as 2. And then, because listen, Slaughter bumped his ass off for Hogan. There were some shitty moments in that match, but like, Slaughter really busted his ass in that match.
Yeah, I mean, I might have to go like the original WrestleMania.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
Only because it was so much, and it was everything around it. It was such a happening.
This is going to sound controversial. The finish sucks. I might pick the WrestleMania 4 Andre match over WrestleMania 3.
For sure.
Just because there was like more happening with like Virgil and DiBiase at ringside, and
Well, that 3 match was boring.
yeah, well Hogan fucking launching Virgil like he had done Earl Hebner, like, and just, oh my God, ridiculous stuff. Also, I would say one of the more iconic Hulk Hogan promos happens at WrestleMania 4, where, you know, he does the dog paddle.
I was just gonna say,
God
but
damn,
you know what?
so good.
I had on maybe WWE Vault or whatever.
Yeah.
And as we were recording, I watched 3 or 4 different Hulk Hogan matches. And in 3 of those, there was a pre-match promo, and Hulk Hogan backstrokes out of the camera shot in all 3 of them.
I mean, it was
So
a good
that
move.
must have been a thing that I didn't really remember until just now. I remember him doing it for that famous one, but
yeah, I liked when he would like act like he was grabbing the ape hangers on a Harley, and then he would like
backwards.
the promo. So good.
Hey, and people need to realize, people that are independent wrestlers or just coming up need to realize, I would tell them all the time, give me like 10 seconds where you're just standing there so we can fade out the shot or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, stand there. Don't walk off. It looks stupid when you walk off. Hogan had a way to walk off camera that was sweet.
And listen. Maybe Hulk Hogan didn't have the best matches ever, right? Everybody always goes, well, he was good in Japan. Listen, Hulk probably could have done more than he did. But also, here's what's important. Wrestling is about the moments, right? And I think one thing to study about Hulk Hogan would be selling. Sometimes he did the ridiculous Twitch sell, which I was not particularly a fan of. However, it stuck with me because as a kid, sometimes when I would pretend like I was getting beat up on the ground, I would do the Hulk Hogan Twitch sell.
Me too.
Because I thought that's how you look when you get hurt. But also, for a guy his size, this is what people forget. And I think this is part of the magic of Hulk Hogan. Yes, most of the time he was in there with bigger guys. But no matter who he was in there with when he was selling, it was believable. And remember, he was 6'8", and at times somewhere between 275 and 303 pounds.
Look, he was bigger than Piper.
Yeah. Yes.
But it was believable that Piper was going to win the title.
Bigger than Macho.
He was bigger than Paul Orndorff.
Yes.
He was bigger than the Macho Man.
Yeah.
He wasn't more muscular than the Ultimate Warrior, more vascular, but he was still bigger. He was taller. He was heavier than the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
The only guys were, then he started going down that road of Kamala, Andre the Giant, King Kong Bundy.
Boss Man.
I don't even know if Boss Man was bigger. They were the same weight, I would say,
Probably.
but Hogan was muscle.
Yeah.
Akeem was bigger.
For sure. I would say though, like also like look at Hogan's selling, and also if you can't cut a promo, I'm not saying like do the 80s like yelling at the camera like Hulk Hogan, but you know we're talking about Hogan dog paddling in a promo or riding a Harley in a promo, right? Like or pretend riding a Harley rather. Go back and listen to those promos. Tell me how often he's talking about pro wrestling. Hulk Hogan was telling the most absurd stories possible, but it sucks you in, man. Like, and sometimes it's like there would be a point where he would bring it back to the case in point, right? But it was storytelling within the promo, storytelling within the match. And like, yes, the hulking up got tired at one point, okay? It was, okay? Like even looking back, like what did I watch where I was like, Jesus Christ, man. Like I was watching SummerSlam 90. That's one of the matches because I didn't watch that as much as a kid because I didn't see it live. So I went back and watched that. First of all, Hogan and Boss Man are cheating in front of the ref before Dino Bravo ever does anything, which is absurd. Hogan's eye raking and back raking throughout the whole match. He ends up hulking up after two earthquake avalanches, okay? And I mean, like I kind of shook my head because I was just like, how stupid. He got taken out with his, you know, the broken rib situation like a few months earlier with one of them. Yeah. And now he's just kicking out, hulking up. And then they did the gimmick where there was a table at ringside for no reason, and Hogan body slammed him on the table, which looked super unsafe, by the way. Was not made to break. This is before the breaking tables. And yeah, the hulking up got tired, right? Probably around the time where you were starting to get sick of Hulk Hogan. But fast forward, what's old is new again. I don't think we talk enough about Hulk Hogan's 2002 run.
I was going to bring that up. Before we get to that,
yeah.
Also, in watching these Hogan matches, I noticed something. Hulk Hogan starts off on the offense in most of these matches, in all these matches that I just rewatched. And when the heel takes over and does maybe their one high spot out of that, Hogan looks like there's no way he's going to kick out. And he does this barely able to kick out. It's like when he kicks out of Andre with the body slam at WrestleMania 3. Mm-hmm. It's that I'm barely able to do this. So now all of a sudden I'm thinking Hogan's already washed up and he's already going to get pinned. Yeah. As a kid, that's what I thought. And I think that's very important.
Yeah. So for a second after WCW closes, obviously we have the Bash at the Beach 2000 incident where Hogan, depending on what you hear, didn't know Vince Russo was going to do any of the stuff he did, according to Hogan, but Vince Russo claims that it was always supposed to be a work from the beginning, and then Hogan made it seem like it was a shoot and sued the company and got out of his contract. They try to start the XWF for a second, which is a Jimmy Hart, Brian Knobbs thing. Hogan ends up doing like one match, I think, with Kurt Hennig. 2002. The return of the NWO. Vince McMahon announces it in that famous backstage vignette throughout the course of the show. He's going to inject the company with a lethal dose of poison. He's sick of the way co-owner Ric Flair is operating his company. And so how do we make bringing the NWO, which was the intent was to kill WCW, how do we make sense of that in the WWF? Well, Vince is going to inject the poison and kill what he created with Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Historically, I've talked about on the show, this is one of the final times that I ever saw my mom because she would not let me watch this. I had heard spoilers that they were going to announce this return. I was still spending my weekends with my mom. They were airing SmackDown on Saturday instead of Thursday because it had been preempted due to Cleveland Cavaliers basketball. So I literally told my mom off, and I walked all the way home to make it in time for SmackDown to watch this vignette play out over the course of the show. And I ordered No Way Out 2002. One of the rare times that I ordered a pay-per-view that was not WrestleMania because I needed to see the return of the NWO. Throughout the course of the evening, they interacted with some of the current WWF superstars, which was very surreal for the time. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. I don't remember. I don't think they did anything with Jericho, but particular Stone Cold and The Rock. Of course, we get that famous promo where The Rock mocks Big Daddy Cool Diesel. And then by the end of the show, the NWO cost Stone Cold Steve Austin the WWF Championship. The next night on Raw, I think people will remember more than the return of the NWO because we get the infamous face-off between Hollywood Hulk Hogan and The Rock. I think a lot of people, myself included, thought the dream match here is Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Hulk Hogan, the two biggest stars of the 80s and the 90s. They don't do that. In retrospect, probably for the best that they do not do that. I think Stone Cold has been on record to say multiple times that he did not think that they would have good chemistry, and I think I might agree with that. The Rock seemed more Hulk Hogan style, right? And so they do that promo, and I remember the call from Jim Ross that night, which was, as they were standing face to face, he says, "It's as if time has stood still." And I remember watching that promo thinking like it was going on forever, but like in the best way possible. It was very surreal feeling. How did you feel about that promo? Did you watch that live when it happened?
Yeah, for sure. And it was like time was standing still. It was a great way for him to vocalize that.
They end up announcing that they're going to have a Icon versus Icon match, WrestleMania 18. Of course, Hulk Hogan and the NWO assault The Rock after that. They get him taken out into an ambulance. Hulk Hogan says he's going to hit his cripple ass NWO style. And he runs him down with an ambulance, or I'm sorry, with a semi-truck, which they played repeatedly in the intro package for a long time. And the crowd cheered it in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And inevitably, after about 2 weeks on the shelf, The Rock comes back. Seems perfectly fine going into WrestleMania 18 for some reason. That's neither here nor there. We get to Toronto in the Sky Dome. The crowd does not want to boo Hulk Hogan.
No.
They're happy that Hulk Hogan is back in the WWF.
And it's that crowd.
It's that same crowd from WrestleMania 6. And Canada always loved Hulk Hogan. And, we all know the story. They had to change course during the course of the match because they realized that they were cheering Hogan and booing The Rock. And Rock had to kind of work like a heel. And The Rock went over in the end. But what we ended up getting is one of the magical WrestleMania moments, one of the best WrestleMania matches that wasn't really a great match. Again, it was a series of moments, that iconic stare down where they like looked to both sides of the crowd and
they were in sync perfectly with each other.
Yeah, it's
magic. You never know who's going to work well together. A lot of times you think, oh, this guy and this guy for sure. This guy won't work. Because I was dead set on. I wanted Hogan and Stone Cold. I didn't want Hogan and Rock.
Yeah,
and I was wrong.
Well, and it's just one of those things where, you talk to people and when they name the best match in WrestleMania history, the easy answers, depending on the time frame that you grew up in, it's going to be Steamboat and Macho. It's going to be Undertaker and Shawn. But not even in the same caliber of athleticism or like wrestling technical prowess. I think you also put Rock and Hogan in there because it's like you are not going to see a lot of matches like that. And we've talked about it before. I think we appreciated crowds more once COVID happened.
Mhm.
That crowd helps make that magic happen. And the crowd and like the want to see Hulk Hogan change the course of what they were going to do with the returning Hulk Hogan. Triple H had just come back from his quad tear. This is really supposed to be Triple H's run as like a top babyface.
Mhm.
But because the crowd loved Hulk Hogan so much, they had no choice but to pivot. The next month after WrestleMania, we go into Backlash. Hogan is back in the red and yellow. He's coming out to Voodoo Child, and he's wrestling Triple H for the Undisputed Championship. After 1 month of Undisputed Championship reign for Triple H, with some interference by The Undertaker, Hollywood Hulk Hogan becomes the WWE Champion. It's only for 1 month, but it was the way to sort of, let us know that Hulkamania was back. And what a nostalgia trip that was for that period of time. At the time, I was 16 years old, and it was cool, man. And like one of the things that they don't really show a lot of, we all see the WrestleMania 18 moment, the ambulance and semi-truck thing with The Rock. We all talk about that standing ovation he gets the next night after WrestleMania in Montreal. But no one really cites the promo that he did in the red and yellow. And I want to say it was right after Backlash where he won the championship, where he kind of faked that he was going to retire. And he cuts a promo. And this is like right after they changed from the WWF to WWE. And he cuts a promo talking about how when his dad was on his deathbed and how he said, Terry, you got to do the right thing and you got to go back to the WWF. And I remember they just changed the name. So I'm like, oh, he said WWF. And Hogan seemed like he was on the verge of tears. And I remember being emotional watching that promo. And I felt like Hulk was really genuine in that moment. And then, of course, the swerve ends up being like Vince coming out and telling him that he can't retire. And he's going to retire when he says he's retiring. And he's going to ride the cash cow that is Hulkamania until he says it's over with. And that's sort of setting the stage for what we get the following year, which, again, Hogan really worked with a lot of guys in 2002, which is crazy to think about, and put over a lot of guys. He lost to Lance Storm and Christian, for God's sakes, after winning the tag titles with Edge. He tapped out to Kurt Angle, which is, I think, the only time ever Hulk Hogan has tapped out. He does the job for Brock Lesnar on the way out. Comes back in 2003. He wrestles Vince in a match at WrestleMania 19 that is way better than it has any right to be. And then I think really, we get the Mr. America run. Obviously, this is how I get introduced to Zach Gowen. And I think really the last thing of note to talk about with Hulk Hogan is that run with Shawn Michaels in 2005. He comes back after being inducted into the Hall of Fame. He does the thing at WrestleMania 21 where he saves Eugene from Muhammad Hassan. Shawn Michaels talks the character of Hulk Hogan into one more match, and so they team up. Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels, this dream team against Muhammad Hassan and Daivari. They beat him at Backlash. We get a series of random matches on Raw where like Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels and Batista team up. And, or was it was Hulk Hogan, Batista and Cena, Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels and Cena. It was a weird period of time in wrestling. And then of course we get the turn. I believe it was in a tag match, Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan versus Carlito and Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Of all matches. And I think it was on like a July 4th Raw or like the July 3rd or something. And Shawn Michaels super kicks Hogan. And we've all heard the story about like the politicking behind the scenes. Supposedly there was going to be a 3-match series originally and Hogan didn't want to lose and whatever the case was. And perhaps maybe there was going to be a cage match that there was talked about at some point in the series. But whatever the case is, we didn't get Brett and Hogan in the way we should have in the WWF. But we got Shawn and Hulk. And, Hulk comes back for that match with Orton the next year, which is a fine match. It's okay. It's nothing memorable, but that is Hulk's final WWE match. But Shawn and Hulk, man, if it would have ended there, I think it would have been great. And, there's the TNA stuff that we could talk about or whatever, but no one has seemed to talk about that really that much because it's kind of forgettable. 2015, I mean, it's where, Hulk Hogan and Terry Bollea gets kind of tainted. If it would have ended in that 2002, 2005 era, I think, it would be easier to look at it and just go, yep, Hulk Hogan, Babe Ruth of wrestling. Like that's how Hulk Hogan's career and legacy should have ended, right? Is like those crowds loving him and appreciating him for changing wrestling and making it what it is today, right? Like, I am not a wrestler if it's not for Hulk Hogan. You don't do the things that you did in wrestling if not for seeing Hulk Hogan, right?
Yeah, I probably don't even watch. You know, if that first match isn't Hulk Hogan versus Nikolai Volkov on Saturday night's main event, I don't know that I stick around.
Yeah. He changed the industry. Like, love him or hate him, he made wrestling, even if you don't want to call it sports entertainment, right? And for that, I think every wrestler owes him a tiny debt of gratitude. You don't have to agree with some of the things that he did or say, and you don't even have to like the man. But what it comes down to is, like, he offered us the opportunity and the platform to do this. And yes, you can make the argument that, you know, he fucked things up in the 80s and didn't allow us to get a union or whatever the case is, and he ratted Jesse Ventura out. I mean, yeah, is that cool? No, not at all. But also, we've talked about it on the show before. To get a union in wrestling, there's always someone waiting in the wings to take the spot, right? So if a whole roster of guys walk out, it's a pretty cutthroat thing, and guys not only want the payday, but they want the spotlight. Right. And so I think if at any point, if there was an opportunity for a union to form, inevitably there would be someone waiting in the wings to try to take the spot. I don't know if it would ever work out, but the legacy of Hulk Hogan, at the end of the day, is like, you know, he created a feeling in a lot of people that was one of their first opportunities to be like, you know what, I love this industry. And either you became a fan for a certain period of time, you became a lifelong fan, it became a large part of your childhood, or in some cases, like me and Aaron, you end up following that love and that passion, and it leads you to this. And we get to speak to all of you, and I think, you know, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for that and the opportunity, and you know, like I said, we've clowned on him in the past, but without Hulk Hogan, we are not here. And so, I don't know. I don't know what else I want to add to that. What do you have to say?
I feel like we could do this podcast, this episode, for much, much longer.
For sure.
I could go over. I told you I had ideas of, I wanted to talk about what my favorite trunks were of Hulk Hogan's. You know, did he look better in the blue? Did he look better in the white? Why'd he settle on yellow? Yeah. We could do a whole thing on that. How did we feel about when he went to the long tights with the lightning bolts on him and the black and the white and the beard and just the walrus mustache? And
this is what Patreon's for.
I know. Well, I think that's a fantastic idea. Let's get on over there and do this.
Yeah. Well,
like Brutus, the barber.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you download podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on social media at Gregory_Iron on Instagram, Facebook.com/The Handicap Hero. If you want to book me for pro wrestling seminars, motivational speaking, handicappedhero.com. You can book me there. You can also find my Cameo, direct link for my Cameo. If you want to shout out, Pro Wrestling Tees is linked there as well. So you can get my shirts, Aaron shirts, Iron on Wrestling shirts. And Aaron, what would you like to plug?
I'm on Twitter at Fair to Air. And I'm on Instagram at Fair to Aaron.
That's it. I don't know. From me and Aaron, a kiss goodbye. A kiss goodbye to the Immortal Hulk Hogan.
And Hulkamania. No, we're not kissing Hulkamania goodbye.
No.
Hulkamania will live forever.
Just a man and his will to survive. It's the eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the fight, rising up to the challenge of our rivals, and the less known survivor strokes his prey in the night, and he's watching us all with the eye of the tiger.